What if I told you that you've never actually been broke a single day in your life? What if the financial struggles, the empty bank accounts, the sleepless nights worrying about bills? What if all of that was just an illusion masking a profound spiritual truth that could transform your entire relationship with money before 2025 ends? Has this ever happened to you? You've tried budgeting, you've worked extra hours, you've followed every financial guru's advice, yet somehow wealth still feels elusive, always just out of reach. You've probably wondered why some people seem to attract money effortlessly while others struggle despite their best efforts. The answer might shock you because it has nothing to do with your education, your background, or even how hard you work. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Here's the truth that most people never discover. Money has never been missing from your life, not for a single moment. Right now, as you're watching this, there's invisible wealth surrounding you like gold dust suspended in the air, waiting for one specific thing to gather it into visible form. That one thing isn't another strategy, another investment, or another side hustle. It's something you carry with you everywhere you go, something you use every single day without realizing its true power. You see, you're not broke. You're unspoken. You're not behind on your bills. You're behind on your declarations. You're not financially stuck. You're spiritually silent. The vault of abundance exists within you right now, but it hasn't been opened because you haven't discovered that the key is your own tongue, your own voice, your own divinely appointed words. Picture this for a moment. You're standing in a field of the richest soil imaginable, surrounded by everything you need to create wealth beyond your wildest dreams. But you're crying about famine, complaining about scarcity, wondering when your breakthrough will come. Meanwhile, the rain that could make this field yield an incredible harvest isn't falling from the sky. It's supposed to flow from your mouth. Every word you speak either waters the seeds of abundance or creates drought in your financial landscape. What you're about to discover might surprise you because it challenges everything you've been taught about creating wealth. The most successful people throughout history understood something that's been hidden in plain sight. They knew that before money could flow into their bank accounts, it had to first flow from their lips. They spoke their wealth into existence using specific phrases, particular declarations that align with universal laws most people never learn. Stay with me until the end of this video, because I'm going to share with you the exact words that have transformed ordinary people into millionaires. Not through manipulation or wishful thinking, but through understanding how spiritual law actually works. These aren't just positive affirmations. They're divine decrees that command reality itself to rearrange according to your spoken word. The question isn't whether you deserve wealth or whether you're capable of attracting it. The question is, what have you been saying about money, and are you ready to discover what happens when you start speaking like the millionaire you were always meant to be? If these insights resonated with you, subscribe for more teachings on the spiritual laws of wealth. This is exactly the kind of transformative content I share regularly. Hit that subscribe button and let's continue this journey together. The hidden truth behind this transformation goes deeper than most people realize. Right now, in this very moment, there are riches stored in invisible places with your name literally etched upon them in eternal light. This isn't metaphorical or symbolic. I'm talking about actual wealth. Specific amounts, precise opportunities that have been allocated to you before you even knew they existed. The only barrier between you and these resources isn't your resume, your connections, or your current bank balance. It's the decree you haven't yet spoken. Think about that for a moment. While you've been strategizing and planning and working harder, your wealth has been patiently waiting in the unseen realm for you to simply call it forth with your voice. It's like having a vault full of gold that can only be opened by speaking the right combination. And that combination is already programmed into your spiritual DNA. Here's where most people miss the real revelation behind this journey. We've been conditioned to believe that words are just sounds, just casual expressions of our thoughts. But that mindset keeps us trapped in limitation because words are actually substance. They're seeds planted in the invisible soil of reality. They're spiritual. Legislation that commands both the seen and unseen dimensions to move, to yield, to appear, and to deliver exactly what you've decreed. When you understand this principle, everything changes. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your experience. You realize you're not here to beg the universe for scraps or to plead with life to be kinder to you. You're here to reign with your word, to speak with the authority of someone who knows their true identity and their rightful inheritance. The impact of this realization is staggering. I've witnessed people completely transform their financial reality within weeks simply by changing what flows from their mouth on a daily basis. Not through manipulation or force, but through alignment with how creation actually works. There's a specific phrase that has opened doors for countless individuals, and when you speak it with genuine conviction, you'll begin to notice shifts in ways you never expected. It starts with declaring, "There is gold dust in the air for me. Large sums of money come to me now, under grace, in perfect ways." Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds too simple, maybe even naive, but that reaction comes from the same programming that's kept you financially stuck. The decisions that lead to breakthrough often appear simple on the surface, yet they carry profound power when backed by understanding. Behind the scenes of every financial miracle, every unexpected windfall, every divine opportunity, there's always been someone who dared to speak differently than the masses. They refused to let their current circumstances dictate their vocabulary. Instead, they used their words to paint a new picture of their reality, and that picture eventually became their experience. Now, I want to go even deeper into this revelation, because understanding the mechanics behind this transformation is crucial for your success. What happens in the invisible realm when you speak with spiritual authority completely changes how money flows into your life. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to speak my wealth into existence," if this resonates with something deep inside you. The moment you truly grasp this principle, your entire approach to wealth undergoes a radical transformation. Here's the revelation that changes everything. Money that is chased runs faster than your feet can follow. Think about every time you've desperately pursued an opportunity, frantically applied for jobs, or anxiously chased after clients. The harder you ran, the more elusive success became, right? That's not coincidence. That's spiritual law in action. When you chase money, you're unconsciously broadcasting a message of lack. You're essentially declaring to the universe that this thing you're pursuing is separate from you, distant from you, and that you're operating from a position of not having it. Whatever you chase, you automatically admit you do not have, and what you confess as absent, you actually repel by law. It's like trying to grab your own shadow. The faster you move toward it, the faster it moves away from you. But here's where the journey gets fascinating. Money doesn't respond to panic, pursuit, or pressure. It responds to principle. It flows toward those who command it rather than chase it, toward those who understand their role as stewards rather than beggars. This mindset shift isn't just philosophical. It creates measurable impact in how opportunities present themselves to you. The behind-the-scenes truth about lack is something most people never discover. Financial struggle doesn't begin in your wallet, in the economy, or even in your circumstances. It begins in the word, specifically in the echo of what you say when you're alone with your thoughts. Picture this scenario. The bills are stacked on your kitchen table, the numbers don't add up, and that familiar voice of fear starts whispering in your mind, "You'll never have enough. You're always behind." Money slips through your fingers. Now here's the critical decision point that determines your financial destiny. In that moment, you can either echo that voice or rebuke it. Most people unconsciously echo it. They nod along. They agree with the fear. They even voice it out loud. "Yeah, I never have enough money. I'm terrible with finances. I'll never get ahead." But when you echo the voice of lack instead of rebuking it, you're doing something profound. You're consenting to the curse. You're giving permission for that limitation to continue operating in your life. This is where understanding the hidden mechanics becomes crucial for your transformation. The spiritual mathematics of lack work in reverse of what most people assume. Lack multiplies not through external circumstances, but through internal agreement. Every time you verbally consent to limitation, you're essentially signing a contract in the invisible realm that authorizes more of the same experience. But the beautiful revelation is that you have the power to cancel that contract at any moment. Instead of echoing fear, you can rebuke it. Instead of agreeing with lack, you can declare abundance. Instead of chasing money like it's playing hard to get, you can position yourself as someone who commands it through spiritual authority. If this message stirred something within you, if you felt that recognition of truth, show me with a like. It tells me this content is genuinely impacting your understanding of wealth. The impact of this shift ripples through every area of your financial life in ways that might surprise you. When you stop chasing and start commanding, when you stop consenting to lack and start decreeing abundance, you'll notice that opportunities begin seeking you out instead of you having to hunt them down. Write in the comments, "I command, I don't chase," if you're ready to make this powerful shift in your approach. This brings us to one of the most profound revelations about how wealth actually flows into someone's life. You can only receive what you see yourself receiving, and you only receive what you speak as law. This isn't just positive thinking or visualization. This is understanding how your internal image of yourself directly controls your external experience with money. Most people are under what I call the hypnosis of appearances. They look around at their current bank balance, their current job, their current circumstances, and they base their entire identity on what they see right now. But here's the hidden truth behind every financial transformation. When you're hypnotized by appearances, you're actually sprinting in the opposite direction of divine supply. You're working against the very force that wants to elevate you. Divine supply doesn't flow through panic, pressure, or frantic activity. It flows through position, specifically, your internal position regarding who you are and what you deserve. Think about this for a moment. When you're constantly worried about money, checking your bank account multiple times a day, calculating and recalculating your bills, you're positioning yourself as someone who lacks, someone who's always behind, someone who's at the mercy of circumstances. But there's a completely different way to exist financially, and it starts with understanding that your position is not on the ground begging, but on the throne declaring. This mindset shift creates immediate impact because it changes not just how you think about money, but how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how you make decisions throughout your day. The person who knows their supply is spiritual walks differently through life. They don't rush or desperate energy. They move with quiet confidence because they understand something the masses don't, that their source isn't their job, their clients, or even their investments. Their source is infinite, inexhaustible, and always available. This person wakes up in the morning and their first thought isn't about their problems or their bills. Instead, they declare, "God is my instant and inexhaustible supply, and all channels are now open." Now, you might be thinking, this sounds too simple or even unrealistic given your current circumstances. But that reaction is exactly what keeps most people trapped in limitation. Behind the scenes of every major financial breakthrough, there's always been someone who dared to see themselves differently before their external reality reflected that change. They understood that transformation begins with a decision to position yourself internally as someone who deserves and expects abundance. The journey from struggle to prosperity isn't about changing your external circumstances first. It's about changing your internal position. When you position yourself as someone who commands rather than begs, who declares rather than worries, who expects rather than hopes, everything in your external world begins to shift to match that new internal reality. This positioning isn't about arrogance or entitlement. It's about recognizing your true spiritual identity and operating from that place of knowing rather than from fear or lack. The revelation here is that your financial circumstances are always a reflection of how you see yourself and what you consistently speak into existence. Write in the comments, "I position myself on the throne," if you're ready to make this powerful internal shift. Let me share with you a real-life story that perfectly illustrates this transformation in action. There was a woman who came seeking help with tears in her eyes, holding nothing but 7 cents in her hand. 7 cents. That was the total of her financial reality at that moment. Most people would look at that situation and see hopelessness, impossibility, rock bottom. But here's where the journey took an unexpected turn. Instead of focusing on what she didn't have, she was given a completely different set of instructions. She was told to speak to those 7 cents, to bless them, to tell them they were seeds rather than scraps. She was instructed to call them the beginning of millions and to declare over them, "Every dollar I spend comes back multiplied under grace." Now, from a logical standpoint, this might sound ridiculous, but logic isn't what governs financial breakthrough. Spiritual law is. The hidden truth behind this approach reveals something profound about how money actually works. This woman made a critical decision in that moment. Instead of seeing her 7 cents as evidence of her lack, she chose to see them as proof of her potential. Instead of cursing her situation, she blessed it. Instead of speaking defeat, she declared victory. And the impact was immediate. Not because the numbers changed overnight, but because her relationship with money underwent a complete transformation. Within days, her situation began to shift in ways she couldn't have orchestrated through effort alone. Opportunities appeared, unexpected payments arrived, doors opened that had been closed for months. But here's the revelation that most people miss. It wasn't the 7 cents that multiplied. It was her understanding of her authority over money that changed everything. She stopped chasing money and started commanding it. This story unveils a fundamental principle that governs all financial success. Money is not your God, it's your messenger. Most people worship money, fear money, chase money, beg money, and wonder why it remains elusive. But money responds to completely different energy. It obeys voice, not volume. You don't need to shout at it or frantically pursue it. You need to speak to it with quiet authority, the way a king issues a decree. Money responds to rhythm, not reasoning. It doesn't care about your logical explanations for why you need it or your detailed plans for how you'll use it. It responds to the consistent rhythm of your declarations, the steady drumbeat of your faith, the unwavering cadence of your spoken word. Money flows through decree, not desperation. The more desperate you become, the further it retreats. But when you decree with calm certainty, it has no choice but to obey. This brings up a question that might revolutionize your entire approach. Where have you been running after what you should have been speaking into form? How much energy have you wasted chasing opportunities, hunting down clients, desperately seeking investors, when all along you should have been positioning yourself as someone who commands these things through spiritual authority? The behind-the-scenes reality is that every person who has achieved lasting financial success understands this principle, whether consciously or unconsciously. They've learned to treat money as their messenger, not their master. Write in the comments, "Money is my messenger," if you're ready to flip this relationship completely. This revelation takes us to perhaps the most transformative truth of all, one that completely shatters conventional thinking about wealth creation. You are already the millionaire you seek, not in some distant future that you're working toward, not after you've accumulated enough assets or built the right business, but right now, in this very moment. You exist as a millionaire in spirit, clothed in power, formed in divine consciousness, waiting only for your spoken word to call it forth from the unseen into the visible scene. Most people struggle with this concept because their journey has been built around the idea that wealth is something external to acquire rather than something internal to recognize and release. They've been conditioned to believe that becoming wealthy requires years of grinding, perfect strategies, and maybe a little luck. But this mindset keeps them trapped in a cycle of always becoming, never being, always reaching, never arriving. The hidden truth behind every financial transformation is that wealth isn't created. It's revealed. It's not built from nothing. It's called forth from the invisible storehouse where it already exists, with your name on it. This shift in understanding creates immediate impact because it changes you from someone who's trying to become wealthy into someone who's learning to express the wealth they already are. Here's where the journey gets fascinating. Every person carries within them what I call the scroll of their own fortune. This isn't metaphorical. This is your spiritual blueprint, your divine inheritance, your predetermined abundance waiting to unfold. But here's the revelation that changes everything. This scroll is not read by the eyes, but by the mouth. It's not open through effort, but through utterance. It doesn't respond to your fear, your worry, or your logical analysis. It responds only to faith-filled declaration spoken from the seat of authority. Think about the implications that this has for your daily decisions. Instead of constantly looking outside, yourself for evidence of wealth, checking your bank account for proof, scanning the market for opportunities, you begin to understand that your fortune is accessed through what flows from your lips. The scroll of your abundance opens not when you work harder or strategize better, but when you speak with the authority of someone who knows their true identity. You stayed with me through this entire deep dive, which tells me you're serious about transformation. Subscribe to never miss these powerful teachings about abundance and spiritual principles. Behind the scenes of every person who has achieved extraordinary wealth, there's been a moment when they stopped reading their circumstances with their eyes and started declaring their destiny with their mouth. They discovered that their tongue holds more power than their talents. Their voice carries more authority than their resume, and their daily declarations shape their reality more than their daily actions. This understanding completely transforms your approach to wealth because you realize you're not waiting for something external to happen to you. You're learning to release something that's already within you. The millionaire consciousness isn't something you develop over time. It's something you acknowledge and express through the power of your spoken word. Now, I want to explore with you the specific mechanics of how this works, because understanding the precise process of how words become wealth is crucial for your breakthrough. Write in the comments, "I am already the millionaire," if this truth is resonating deep within your spirit right now. The mechanics behind this transformation reveal something extraordinary about how reality actually operates. In the hidden corridors of the spirit realm, every word you speak doesn't just disappear into the air, it becomes a form. Every form becomes a pathway. Every pathway becomes a harvest. This isn't mystical theory. This is the blueprint behind every financial breakthrough you've ever witnessed. Picture this scenario. There's a person who wakes up every morning and declares, "I am rich," while their bank statement shows overdrawn. From the outside, this might look delusional, even foolish. But here's the revelation that changes everything. This person is actually building faster and more eternally than those who toil endlessly without ever speaking divine supply into motion. While others are grinding through strategies and tactics, this person is constructing invisible architecture that will eventually manifest as visible wealth. The journey from declaration to manifestation follows a precise spiritual sequence. Each time you speak wealth over your life, you're not just making sounds, you're laying down spiritual infrastructure. You're creating pathways in the unseen realm that money can flow through. You're building bridges between your current reality and your destined abundance. This principle is actually rooted in ancient wisdom that most people overlook. Scripture commands, "Let the weak say I am strong," not to beg for strength, not to wait for it to arrive, not to hope it might show up someday, but to say it, because to say is to claim is to own, and to own is to become. This isn't positive thinking or wishful affirmations. This is understanding how spiritual law governs physical reality. The same applies to financial transformation. Let the poor say, "I am rich," and let it ring like a trumpet through heaven's courts. This decision to speak contrary to your current circumstances isn't denial, it's divine protocol. You're not lying about your bank balance. You're declaring your spiritual identity and calling it into material form. Behind the scenes of this process, something powerful happens. When you consistently speak wealth over your life, regardless of what your eyes see, you begin to shift your internal frequency. Your subconscious mind starts to accept this new identity. Your energy changes. Your decisions align with abundance rather than scarcity. Opportunities that were invisible before suddenly become obvious. People who never noticed you before begin to seek you out. The impact of this practice extends far beyond just positive emotions or increased confidence. You're literally rewiring your relationship with money at the deepest level. Instead of operating from the mindset of someone who lacks and hopes to have, you begin functioning from the consciousness of someone who knows they already possess and are learning to express it. This transformation doesn't require you to ignore your current circumstances or pretend they don't exist. It requires you to understand that your circumstances are temporary, while your spoken word creates permanent change. The person who says, "I am rich," while facing financial challenges, isn't being unrealistic. They're being prophetic. Now, I want to reveal to you the most dangerous phrase that's probably been sabotaging your wealth without you even realizing it, and show you exactly how to replace it with words that actually multiply your money. Write in the comments, "I say I am rich," if you're ready to start speaking your new financial reality into existence. This brings us to one of the most fundamental revelations about how reality actually operates. The word creates the fact, not the other way around. Most people wait for the facts to change before they change their words, but that's backwards thinking that keeps them trapped in limitation. The word doesn't just describe reality, it commands the condition and unlocks the provision. You are the millionaire, not because you earned it through years of struggle, not because it was proven by your bank statement, but because you are it in your essential nature, and because it was spoken into existence through your declaration. This mindset shift completely transforms your journey because you stop trying to become what you already are and start learning to express what's already within you. The decision to open your mouth without trembling and declare your divine wealth isn't about fake confidence or pretending. It's about recognizing that your words carry creative power. And when you speak from your true identity rather than your current circumstances, you activate forces that most people never access. But here's where I need to reveal something that might shock you about what's been working against you all this time. There's a phrase that gets spoken casually, almost unconsciously, multiple times a day by millions of people. They say it at restaurants, in stores, when bills arrive, when opportunities present themselves. And this single phrase has created more financial bondage than any economic recession, any market crash, any global crisis you can name. That phrase is, "I can't afford it." These 5 words represent the most dangerous chain ever forged. And here's the hidden truth behind why they're so destructive. When you say, "I can't afford it," you think you're simply describing your current financial situation. But you're not describing anything. You're declaring a belief. And beliefs that are backed by speech become law in your experience. Every time these words leave your mouth, you're not making a statement about your bank balance. You're making a decree about your identity, your capacity, your relationship with abundance. You're essentially telling the universe, "I am someone who lacks, someone who is limited, someone who operates from scarcity." And the universe, being lawful and obedient, responds by sending you more experiences that confirm this identity. The impact of this single phrase is staggering when you trace it through someone's life. Behind the scenes of every person who struggles financially, you'll find this declaration being repeated like a broken record. They say it so often it becomes their automatic response, their default setting, their unconscious programming. But here's what's fascinating about this revelation. The moment you recognize how these words have been shaping your reality, you also discover the power to completely reverse their effect. The same creative force that was working against you through negative declaration can work for you through positive decree. The transformation begins when you understand that you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're the author of your experience through the words you choose to speak. Now, I want to show you the exact replacement phrases that successful people use instead, and how this simple linguistic shift can completely rewire your relationship with money. Write in the comments, "I retire those words forever," if you're ready to break free from this limiting phrase that's been holding you back. The transformation begins the moment you replace that destructive phrase with words that align with abundance rather than lack. Instead of automatically saying, "I can't afford it," you make a conscious decision to speak from a completely different paradigm. You say, "I am divinely provided for. If this is mine by divine right, it appears effortlessly. If it is not mine, something better comes in its place." This isn't just a more positive way of speaking. This is speaking as one who understands that every opportunity, every offer, every financial decision is governed by spiritual law rather than material limitation. When you use this replacement phrase, you're not lying about your current bank balance. You're acknowledging that your source is infinite and that the right doors will open at the right time through divine orchestration. The impact of this linguistic shift ripples through every aspect of your financial life in ways that might surprise you. Behind the scenes, this new way of speaking begins to rewire your subconscious mind. Instead of reinforcing scarcity, you're programming abundance. Instead of declaring limitation, you're affirming your connection to unlimited supply. Your entire energy around money begins to shift from resistance to receptivity. But here's where this journey requires a level of commitment that separates those who experience breakthrough from those who remain stuck. You must become radical in your speech, absolutely ruthless with your tongue. This isn't about casual improvement or trying to be more positive sometimes. This is about recognizing that your words are either building your wealth or destroying it, and there's no middle ground. Never again can you allow "I can't afford it" to leave your lips, because now you understand what you're really doing when you speak those words. You're not just making an innocent observation about your finances. You're betraying your source and cutting off the very flow you've been praying to receive. Every time you declare lack, you're essentially telling the universe to send you more experiences of not having enough. The revelation here is that you must guard your mouth the way you'd guard your most precious possession, because in many ways, that's exactly what it is. Your tongue holds the power to create or destroy, to open doors or close them, to attract wealth or repel it. The decision to become radical in your speech means you speak wealth when others speak poverty. You speak joy when others complain. You speak divine sufficiency when others declare shortage. This level of intentionality in your speech patterns creates a completely different atmosphere around your life. People begin to notice something different about your energy. Opportunities start presenting themselves in unexpected ways. Your entire relationship with money shifts from struggle to flow, from desperation to expectation, from hoping to knowing. The hidden truth behind every person who has achieved lasting financial success is that they learned to discipline their tongue before they disciplined their budget. They understood that words create worlds, and they refused to speak anything that didn't align with their desired outcome. Now, I want to share with you a story that perfectly demonstrates the incredible power of this principle in action, showing you exactly what happens when someone commits to this radical transformation in their speech patterns. Write in the comments, "I am divinely provided for," if you're ready to make this powerful replacement in your daily vocabulary. Let me share something with you that might initially challenge everything you've been taught about. Financial struggle. There is no time for polite deception or sugarcoating this truth. Poverty has no real power. The financial limitations you're experiencing, the struggle that feels so overwhelming, the sense of never having enough, all of this is nothing more than a hypnotic illusion that's been upheld by fear, confirmed by your speech, and multiplied through repetition. This revelation might be difficult to accept when you're looking at bills on your table or checking an empty bank account. But understanding this principle is crucial for your transformation. Struggle is not sacred. Financial lack is not a badge of honor or a spiritual test you must endure. It's simply a hypnotic state that keeps you trapped in a cycle of limitation, and the moment you recognize it as an illusion, you can begin to break free from its hold over your life. The same power that has delivered others from financial bondage, the same force that has elevated people from poverty to prosperity, the same divine energy that has created every financial miracle you've ever witnessed. That exact same power is already residing in your own mouth. You're not waiting for some external force to rescue you. You're not dependent on the economy improving or the right opportunity falling into your lap. The power to transform your financial reality is literally as close as your next spoken word. Behind the scenes of every major financial breakthrough, there's always been what I call a divine hinge moment, a precise instant where everything shifts. Not because external circumstances changed, not because the bank suddenly decided to be generous, not because the market moved in their favor, but because that person made a decision to stand up in their authority and speak differently. In that divine hinge moment, they stop whispering and start declaring. They stop hoping and start commanding. They might stand in their room with trembling hands, but absolute authority and say, "God is my unfailing supply. Large sums of money come to me quickly under grace in perfect ways." And here's the crucial distinction. They don't say it as comfort or positive thinking. They say it as law, as spiritual legislation, as a decree that must be obeyed by the universe itself. The impact of this moment cannot be overstated. Something shifts in the invisible realm when you speak with this level of authority. Angels are dispatched, channels open, divine orchestration begins to move on your behalf. Not because you manipulated anything, but because you aligned your voice with divine truth and gave the universe clear instructions about what to create in your experience. The connection we've built exploring these truths deserves recognition. If these principles could change your financial reality, that like button is your way of saying, "This is what I needed." The journey from that moment forward looks completely different because you're no longer operating from the consciousness of someone who lacks and hopes to receive. You're functioning from the identity of someone who knows their supply is guaranteed and is simply learning to access it through proper spiritual protocol. Now, I want to explore with you the deeper mechanics of how this transformation actually works, because understanding the invisible process behind manifestation will help you sustain this breakthrough long term. Write in the comments, "This is my divine hinge moment," if you're ready to make this powerful declaration over your financial life right now. The deeper mechanics behind this transformation reveal something profound about how financial limitation actually operates in your life. Lack is never truly about numbers. It's about agreement. When you look at your bank statement and nod in acceptance, when you see a bill and automatically think, "I can't handle this," when you witness someone else's success and immediately feel, "That's not for me," you're not just observing your circumstances. You're entering into a spiritual agreement with limitation. The moment you agree with poverty, you give it permission to stay. You essentially sign an invisible contract that authorizes more of the same experience. But here's the revelation that changes everything. The moment you revoke that agreement through your speech and declare your oneness with infinite supply, the entire structure of limitation begins to shift. Not gradually, not eventually, but immediately, because you've canceled the authorization that was keeping it in place. This understanding transforms your entire approach to financial challenges. Instead of seeing problems as permanent fixtures in your life, you begin to recognize them as agreements you can cancel at any moment through the power of your word. Behind the scenes of every person who has overcome seemingly impossible financial situations, there's been a decision to stop agreeing with their circumstances and start declaring their divine right to abundance. The journey from limitation to prosperity isn't about waiting for external conditions to improve. It's about recognizing that every miracle begins with a word. If you are experiencing lack today, the answer isn't to wait, strategize, or hope for better times. The answer is to speak. If your cupboards are bare and bills are rising, still speak, not in denial of your current reality, but in defiance of its permanence. You speak in contradiction to trends, in opposition to statistics, like one who understands a fundamental truth that most people never discover. Every fortune begins in the mouth. Every harvest begins with a sentence planted in the silence of faith. This isn't about ignoring practical matters or abandoning responsible action. This is about understanding that your words create the atmosphere in which practical solutions can emerge. The impact of this approach extends far beyond positive thinking or emotional comfort. When you speak in defiance of shadow, when you declare abundance in the face of apparent lack, you're activating invisible forces that most people never access. You're tapping into the same creative power that spoke worlds into existence, and you're directing that power toward your specific financial situation. The hidden truth behind every financial breakthrough is that someone reached a point where they refused to let their circumstances have the final word. They understood that their voice carries more authority than their bank balance. Their declarations hold more power than their current conditions, and their spoken word can override any negative trend or challenging situation. Now, I want to reveal to you the specific daily practice that will help you maintain this level of spiritual authority, even when everything around you seems to contradict what you're declaring. Write in the comments, "I revoke all agreements with lack," if you're ready to cancel every contract you've unconsciously made with limitation. This brings us to a fundamental shift in understanding that completely transforms how you approach wealth creation. True wealth does not arrive as some distant goal you finally conquer after years of struggle, nor does it appear as a magical moment when all your numbers suddenly align perfectly. Wealth emerges from within you. It's not something external you acquire. It's something internal you learn to release and express. Until you make the decision to release this inner wealth, align with it completely, and speak it rhythmically like a drumbeat that never ceases, you'll continue chasing financial success like a phantom on the horizon, always seeming close, but never quite within reach. This mindset shift creates immediate impact because it changes you from someone who's trying to get wealthy into someone who's learning to be wealthy. Behind the scenes of every person who has achieved lasting financial abundance, there's been a revelation that wealth isn't a destination, but a frequency. Millionaire. Consciousness is not about reaching a specific number in your bank account. It's about operating from a particular vibration, a specific tone, a melody in your soul that resonates with abundance regardless of your current circumstances. This frequency sounds like this. Without a shred of evidence from the external world, and without a moment of doubt in my heart, I am rich because I am one with God, and God is the source of every good and perfect gift. When you can genuinely vibrate at this level, when this becomes your natural inner tone, external wealth has no choice but to manifest because you're no longer pushing against abundance. You're embodying it. The journey to this level of consciousness requires understanding that your daily decisions about what to think, speak, and believe are literally tuning your internal frequency. Just like a radio must be tuned to the right station to receive clear signals, your consciousness must be aligned with abundance to receive abundant experiences. Most people operate from the frequency of, I'll believe it when I see it, but wealth consciousness operates from, I'll see it because I believe it. This reversal of causation is what separates those who struggle financially from those who seem to attract money effortlessly. The transformation isn't in their external strategies, it's in their internal frequency. The revelation here is that you don't need to wait for proof before you start vibrating at the frequency of wealth. You don't need permission from your bank account to begin speaking like a millionaire. You don't need evidence from your current circumstances to start walking in the consciousness of someone who is divinely provided for in every area of life. When you commit to this inner transformation, when you make the decision to align your frequency with abundance, regardless of what's happening around you, you begin to notice that opportunities start seeking you out instead of you having to chase them down. Now, I want to share with you the specific daily rhythm that will help you maintain this millionaire frequency consistently, even when external pressures try to pull you back into scarcity thinking. Write in the comments, I vibrate at wealth frequency, if you're ready to tune your consciousness to abundance and let that inner melody guide your financial transformation. The specific daily rhythm that maintains this wealth frequency centers around understanding that the spoken word is not some magical manipulation or mystical trick. It's a tuning fork for the soul. When you strike this tuning fork daily, morning and night, when you speak declarations of abundance with consistency and conviction, you literally begin to shape your atmosphere into a temple of wealth. This process builds momentum not through force or pushing against circumstances, but through vibrating in perfect alignment with divine truth. Just like a tuning fork creates a specific pitch that resonates through everything around it, your daily declarations create a frequency that begins to attract experiences, people, and opportunities that match that vibration. The transformation begins the moment you wake up each morning. Instead of immediately reaching for your phone to check messages, emails, or news that might trigger anxiety about the day ahead, you make a conscious decision to check your tone first. This simple shift creates immediate impact because you're setting the frequency for your entire day before any external influence can disrupt your inner alignment. Your morning practice becomes sacred when you say aloud, with full conviction, I am in rhythm with divine wealth. Money flows to me richly, rapidly, and repeatedly. Every step I take is blessed with surplus. This isn't just positive thinking or hopeful wishing. This is you literally tuning your consciousness to the frequency of abundance before you take a single step into your day. Behind the scenes of this practice, something powerful begins to happen. Your subconscious mind starts to accept this new program. Your energy shifts from scarcity to abundance. Your decisions throughout the day naturally align with someone who expects prosperity rather than struggles with lack. You begin to notice opportunities that were always there but were invisible when you were operating from a different frequency. The journey of maintaining this practice requires understanding that you're not trying to convince the universe of anything. You're not attempting to manipulate external circumstances through repetition. You're simply keeping your inner tuning fork calibrated to the frequency of wealth so that wealth can flow to you naturally, effortlessly, and consistently. When you begin your day with authority instead of anxiety, when you speak your abundance before you see evidence of it, when you declare your prosperity before your bank account reflects it, you're operating from the same principle that governs all creation. You're speaking things into existence rather than waiting for existence to speak to you. The impact of this morning ritual extends far beyond just feeling better about money. It creates a ripple effect that touches every decision you make, every conversation you have, every opportunity you encounter throughout your day. Now, I want to share with you a powerful testimony that demonstrates exactly what happens when someone commits to this daily practice with unwavering consistency, and how it can produce results that seem almost miraculous. Write in the comments. I begin with authority if you're ready to start every day by tuning your soul to the frequency of divine wealth. Let me share with you a testimony that perfectly demonstrates the power of this consistent daily practice. There was a woman who made a decision to commit to speaking the same declaration every single day for 33 days straight. Her chosen phrase was, "Unexpected doors fly open. Unexpected channels are free. Large sums of money come to me now under grace in perfect ways." Now, what made her journey so remarkable wasn't just the words she spoke, but her unwavering commitment to refuse speaking anything contrary to this declaration. For 33 consecutive days, she disciplined her tongue. When bills arrived, instead of complaining, she repeated her phrase. When unexpected expenses arose, instead of panicking, she declared her abundance. When friends discussed financial struggles, instead of joining the conversation of lack, she remained silent or redirected to gratitude. The transformation that occurred demonstrates the incredible power of sustained, focused declaration. On day 33, she received a letter from a legal office she had never contacted regarding a forgotten family estate from a relative she barely remembered. The settlement amount was exactly $10,000. Not through her effort, not through networking or strategy, but through what can only be described as divine orchestration, responding to her consistent, unwavering word. This story reveals a profound truth about how reality actually operates. The world you see around you is not solid or permanent as it appears. It's actually an echo, a reflection, a residue of what has been spoken into it over time. Every building you enter, every chair you sit on, every dollar that exchanges hands, all of it began not with physical effort or material resources, but with word. Someone saw it first in spirit, named it in voice, and spoke it into material form. Behind the scenes of every invention, every business, every structure, every system of wealth, there was always a moment when someone said, "Let there be," and began the process of calling something from the invisible realm into visible reality. The journey from conception to manifestation always follows the same pattern. First the word, then the form. Understanding this principle transforms how you view your current circumstances. Instead of seeing your financial situation as fixed or permanent, you begin to recognize it as simply the current echo of what's been spoken over your life, by you, by others, by society, by family. But here's the revelation that changes everything. You have the power to create a new echo by speaking new words with sustained consistency. The impact of this understanding is staggering because it means you're not at the mercy of external circumstances. You're not waiting for the economy to improve or for someone to give you a break. You're actively participating in the creation of your reality through the words you choose to speak day after day. Now, I want to explore with you the deeper mechanics of how your individual words actually interact with the invisible forces that govern material manifestation. Write in the comments, "I create new echoes," if you're ready to start speaking a completely different reality into existence through the power of your consistent daily declarations. The deeper mechanics of how this transformation actually works reveal something extraordinary about the nature of your spoken words. When you speak declarations of abundance, those words don't simply float idly into the atmosphere and disappear. They are agents, assignments, blueprints that are sent into the unseen realm specifically to shape what becomes visible in your experience. This principle is rooted in divine law. "My word shall not return void," says the Lord. If this is true for divine speech, and you are made in the image of the divine, then it must also be true for your words when they align with spiritual truth. Your finances are literally listening to what you say. Your bank account, though it seems like mere numbers on a screen, has ears in the spiritual realm. And both respond not to your wishes or hopes, but to words spoken with the authority of law. Behind the scenes of this process, something fascinating occurs every time you make a declaration of wealth. Picture yourself walking through what appears to be an empty field. To the natural eye, there's nothing there, just barren ground stretching as far as you can see. But each time you speak words of abundance, "I am rich, God is my supply, large sums of money come to me now," you're actually dropping seeds made of pure gold into the spiritual soil beneath your feet. Initially, you see nothing. The field looks exactly the same. Your bank account doesn't immediately change. Your circumstances appear unchanged. But here's the revelation that separates those who experience breakthrough from those who give up. The law is working underground. In the invisible realm, those golden seeds are taking root, drawing nutrients from divine substance, beginning the process of germination that will eventually break through into visible reality. The journey from seed to harvest requires one crucial decision. You must not uproot what you've planted with doubt. Every time you speak lack after declaring abundance, every time you complain about your finances after decreeing prosperity, every time you worry about money after commanding increase, you're essentially digging up the golden seeds before they can mature into a visible harvest. But when you remain consistent, when you continue to plant golden seeds through your daily declarations without uprooting them through contradiction, that seemingly empty field will eventually rise up in your favor. What looked barren will suddenly burst forth with abundance. What seemed impossible will become inevitable. What appeared delayed will manifest with perfect timing. The impact of understanding this metaphor transforms your entire relationship with the manifestation process. Instead of expecting immediate visible results, you begin to trust the underground work of spiritual law. Instead of doubting when you don't see instant change, you continue planting golden seeds with your words. Now, I want to show you exactly how to maximize the power of this seed planting process through understanding the precise spiritual mechanics that govern manifestation timing. Write in the comments, "I plant golden seeds daily," if you're ready to commit to this powerful practice of consistent, faith-filled declarations that will transform your financial field. Maximizing the power of this seed planting process requires a fundamental shift in how you understand the role of your tongue in your financial transformation. Your tongue is not ornamental, not a casual tool for everyday conversation or gossip. It is a wand, a staff, a divine instrument of vibration and law. When you truly grasp this truth, everything changes about how you use your voice. This revelation demands that you stop speaking as a beggar who hopes for scraps or as a doubter who questions whether abundance is really possible for you. Instead, you must learn to speak as one who knows their authority, who rules their circumstances through declaration, who reigns over limitation through the power of the spoken word. Your daily declarations become, "My word is law, my word is wealth, my word moves mountains and multiplies money." The impact of this mindset shift is immediate because it transforms you from someone who uses words carelessly into someone who wields them with precision and power. Behind the scenes of every person who has achieved extraordinary wealth, there's been a moment when they discovered that their tongue was not just for communication, but for creation. not just for expression, but for manifestation. This understanding leads to a profound revelation about what you might be experiencing as delay or financial struggle. You are not behind in life. You are not late to the party of prosperity. You are not disqualified, abandoned, or operating under some kind of financial curse. What you've been calling delay is often nothing more than disalignment between your desires and your declarations. What you've interpreted as waiting is actually just a pause in your vocal authority. The hidden truth behind every financial breakthrough is this: your supply has been waiting on you far longer than you've been waiting on it. In the invisible realm, there are resources, opportunities, and divine orchestrations that have been circling your life, waiting for the signal to descend. That signal isn't time, effort, or even worthiness. That signal is your word, spoken with authority, your declaration spoken as law, your voice aligned with divine truth. The journey from where you are to where you want to be isn't about climbing some impossible mountain or earning your way into abundance. It's about recognizing that the gap between your current reality and your desired outcome is simply the space between silence and sound, between unspoken potential and declared possibility. When you understand that your vocal authority is the key that unlocks divine supply, you stop measuring time and start measuring tone. You stop counting days and start counting declarations. You stop waiting for external change and start creating internal alignment through the consistent use of your voice as a divine instrument. The transformation happens not when your circumstances improve, but when you decide to speak as if they already have, consistently and without apology. Now I want to reveal to you the specific timing principles that govern how these declarations manifest in the physical realm, so you can align your expectations with spiritual law. Write in the comments, "My tongue is my wand." If you're ready to start using your voice as the divine instrument of creation, it was always meant to be. The specific timing principles that govern manifestation reveal something that completely transforms how you approach financial breakthrough. Scripture tells us, "Before they call, I will answer," which unveils a profound truth. Supply responds to speech, not time. Your abundance isn't scheduled to arrive at some predetermined date in the future. It's voice-activated, tone-dependent, shaped by the rhythm of your declarations and magnetized by the certainty in your voice. This understanding changes everything about how you relate to the manifestation process. Most people operate under the assumption that wealth requires time to build, that abundance needs months or years to develop. But divine supply operates on a completely different timeline, one that's governed by the quality of your speech rather than the quantity of your effort. Here's where many people sabotage their own breakthrough without realizing it. They say they're ready for wealth, they declare they want abundance, but then they speak like beggars throughout the rest of their day. They send mixed messages to the divine machinery that's trying to deliver their good. It's like ordering a meal at a restaurant and then immediately calling back to cancel, then ordering again, then expressing doubt about whether you really want it. The journey to consistent manifestation requires understanding that your vocal consistency is what creates the clear signal that divine supply can follow. Behind the scenes of every delayed blessing, there's usually a pattern of contradictory speech that's creating interference in the delivery system. Now, let me paint a picture that will revolutionize how you think about timing and availability. Imagine a train, long and fully loaded with every good thing you've ever prayed for, every check, every opportunity, every divine connection, every breakthrough, every form of abundance you've glimpsed in vision or longed for in the quiet moments of your heart. But here's the revelation that changes everything. This train is not in the distance, and it's not slowly making its way toward you over months or years. This train is already circling your life right now. It's been dispatched from the invisible realm, it's carrying your name on every car, and it's waiting at the station of your soul for one simple thing, the confirmation of your word spoken today. Not next week when you feel more confident, not next month when your circumstances look better, not next year when you've figured everything out. Today. The impact of this realization is staggering because it means you're not waiting for God to send your blessing. Your blessing is waiting for you to authorize its arrival through clear, consistent, faith-filled declaration. The train is idling at your spiritual station, engines running, doors ready to open, but it needs the conductor of your voice to call all aboard with absolute certainty. The transformation happens the moment you stop looking into the distance for your wealth and start speaking to what's already present but invisible, already delivered but waiting for vocal confirmation. Now, I want to show you exactly how to eliminate the mixed messages and create the clear, consistent signal that allows this train of abundance to pull into your visible reality. Write in the comments, "My train is already here," if you're ready to stop waiting and start confirming the wealth that's already been dispatched to your spiritual address. Eliminating those mixed messages and creating a clear, consistent signal requires a fundamental shift in how you position yourself when you speak about money. The miraculous responds not to requests, but to rulership. This distinction is crucial for your transformation because it determines whether you're operating from a position of lack or a position of authority. When you say, "Please God, give me more money," you're unconsciously rehearsing separation. You're positioning yourself as someone outside of abundance, someone who lacks what they need, someone who must convince a distant deity to share resources. But when you shift your declaration to, "I am wealth, I am supply, I am the channel through which abundance flows," something profound happens. You step into the vibrational throne room where decree is not just allowed, but required. This journey from petitioning to proclaiming creates immediate impact because it changes your entire energetic signature. Behind the scenes of every person who has achieved extraordinary wealth, there's been a moment when they stopped asking for abundance and started declaring their oneness with it. They discovered that the universe responds to authority, not anxiety, to certainty, not supplication. Understanding this principle reveals why some people seem to manifest effortlessly while others struggle despite their sincere prayers and desperate efforts. Speech is positional. When you speak from asking, you're speaking from beneath, from the position of one who lacks, who needs, who hopes someone else will provide. But when you speak from authority, you're speaking from the throne, from the position of one who knows their divine inheritance and is simply calling it forth. The revelation here is that the spiritual path to wealth isn't about becoming more worthy, more deserving, or more ready for abundance. It's about learning to speak from the right seat, the throne room of consciousness where you decree things into establishment rather than beg for them to be given. This positional shift doesn't require you to earn anything or prove anything. It simply requires you to recognize who you already are and speak from that identity. Most people remain trapped in financial limitation because they continue speaking from the floor of need rather than the throne of authority. They spend years trying to become worthy enough to ask for more when they should be stepping into their rightful position and decreeing what's already theirs by divine right. The transformation happens not when your circumstances improve, but when you make the decision to speak from a different position, regardless of what your current reality looks like. When you sit on the throne of your consciousness and issue decrees instead of requests, the entire universe shifts to accommodate your new frequency. Now, I want to reveal to you the specific language patterns that will help you maintain this throne room consciousness even when external pressures try to pull you back into begging and pleading. Write in the comments, "I speak from the throne," if you're ready to make this fundamental shift from requesting to ruling, from asking to declaring your divine abundance. The specific language patterns that maintain this throne room consciousness become especially crucial when dealing with one of the most pervasive lies that keeps people trapped in financial limitation. Here's a revelation that might challenge everything you've believed about your current financial situation. Debt is not a number on a statement. Debt is a name you've accepted, a spell that's been repeated in whispers and sighs, an identity that's been imposed upon you through years of conditioning. The truth that transforms everything is this: debt is not your identity. It's an imposter. It's a shadow cast by words spoken in ignorance or fear, repeated so often that it began to feel permanent. But shadows have no substance, no power, no authority, except what you give them through your agreement. The moment you recognize debt as an imposter rather than your true identity, everything begins to shift. Behind the scenes of this transformation lies a profound spiritual truth. You are never actually in debt. You are perpetually funded by the invisible deposit of the divine, in the realm of spirit, where all true wealth originates. Your account has never been overdrawn. Your credit has never been damaged. Your worth has never been diminished. What appears as financial lack in the material world is simply a temporary disconnection from this eternal source of supply. The journey from financial bondage to freedom requires making a fundamental decision about what names you'll allow yourself to be called. Stop calling yourself by names that heaven never gave you. Every time you say, "I am in debt," you're not just stating a fact. You're binding yourself to appearances and building a prison with your own breath. You're essentially signing a contract in the invisible realm that authorizes more of the same experience. But when you make the radical decision to say, "I am divinely funded," something extraordinary happens. You tear open the veil between the seen and unseen realms and step into the treasury of heaven where all things are paid in full before they even appear in time. This isn't denial of your current circumstances. This is recognition of your spiritual reality that transcends temporary conditions. The impact of this language shift extends far beyond positive thinking. You're literally changing your vibrational frequency from one of lack to one of abundance, from one of bondage to one of freedom. Your subconscious mind begins to accept this new program. Your decisions start aligning with someone who expects provision rather than struggles with shortage. Opportunities that were invisible when you identified as in debt suddenly become obvious when you know yourself as divinely funded. This transformation doesn't require you to ignore practical responsibilities or abandon wise financial management. It requires you to understand that your identity shapes your reality, and when you change how you see yourself at the deepest level, everything in your external world must eventually conform to that new inner truth. Now, I want to share with you a powerful testimony that demonstrates exactly what happens when someone commits completely to this identity shift and refuses to be called by any name except the ones heaven has given them. Write in the comments, "I am divinely funded," if you're ready to reject the imposter identity of debt and step into your true financial nature. Let me share with you a testimony that perfectly demonstrates the power of this complete identity shift in action. There was an artist who had spent years trapped under the belief that artists must struggle, that creativity and poverty were somehow spiritually connected, that financial success would corrupt his artistic integrity. This limiting belief had become his prison, keeping him financially bound despite his extraordinary talent. But one day, he made a decision to reject this imposter identity completely. He began declaring daily, "I am now recognized, paid, and supported. My art is loved, funded, and in demand. I walk in divine contracts, and my income is increasing." Rapidly, for 33 consecutive days, he refused to speak anything contrary to this new identity. When friends complained about the struggling artist lifestyle, he remained silent. When bills arrived, instead of panic, he declared his provision. When doubt arose, he spoke his worth with unwavering conviction. The transformation that occurred demonstrates the incredible power of sustained identity shift. On day 33, a collector who had visited his website months earlier reached out completely, unexpectedly, offering $15,000 for 3 specific pieces and proposing to fund an entire private exhibition tour. The artist later said it wasn't luck or timing. It was the direct result of finally speaking like someone whose art deserved to be valued and compensated. This story reveals the complete fourfold blueprint that governs all manifestation, the precise spiritual mechanics that transform declaration into demonstration. The journey from word to wealth follows this exact pattern. Declare, rest, obey, receive. First, you declare from the throne room of your soul with full spiritual identity, not as someone hoping for change, but as someone calling forth what already exists in the invisible realm. Then you rest in holy certainty that it is done, not checking your bank account 3 times a day for proof, not monitoring circumstances for evidence, but walking in confident alignment with what you've spoken. Next, you obey every divine impulse and inner nudge without needing to understand the complete plan. trusting that divine intelligence is orchestrating details you couldn't possibly arrange through human effort. Finally, you receive with full arms and lifted eyes, saying, "This is mine, this is right, this is normal now," instead of questioning whether you deserve it or wondering if it will last. Behind the scenes of every financial miracle, every unexpected windfall, every divine provision, this fourfold pattern has been operating. The difference between those who experience breakthrough and those who remain stuck isn't worthiness or luck. It's understanding and applying this precise spiritual formula with consistency and faith. The most important principle that ties all of these teachings together is this: your transformation begins the moment you decide that your voice carries more authority than your circumstances. When you truly understand that your words are not just sounds, but spiritual legislation, that your declarations are not wishes, but divine commands, that your tongue is not just for conversation, but for creation, everything changes. If you've made it this far in our conversation today, you're clearly someone who recognizes the power in these principles. You understand that wealth isn't just about strategies and tactics. It's about aligning your speech with spiritual truth and maintaining that alignment until breakthrough manifests in your visible reality. This is exactly the kind of content I'm passionate about sharing with you consistently. If these revelations have resonated with your spirit, if you feel like you've discovered something that could genuinely transform your relationship with money, then I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. There's so much more we can explore together about the hidden laws that govern abundance, prosperity, and divine provision. And if you made it all the way to the end of this message, leave me a comment saying, "This message was meant for me." Because honestly, if you stayed with me through this entire journey, it probably was. I always love connecting with viewers who are serious about applying these principles rather than just listening to them. The fact that we've spent this time together, diving deep into these spiritual truths about wealth and the power of spoken word, means we've created a real connection. If this resonated with you, that like button would mean the world to me. It tells me you found value in what we explored together. There's a video right here that complements this topic perfectly, diving even deeper into the specific daily practices that will help you maintain this millionaire consciousness we've been discussing. Click and continue with me over there, because the journey we've started today is just the beginning of what's possible when you truly understand the creative power of your voice.